A very strong, unprecedented message being sent across to Pakistan after two important terror centers in the heart of Pakistan's Punjab province have been targeted by India and Maria. From the name of this operation, Operation Sindoor, yes, to those two women officers from the Air Force and Army, a very strong message and symbolism attached to that as well. In the studio with us, Mr. Vikas Swaroop, former Foreign Secretary, who in fact, possibly one of the best person to decode what is happening at this moment. So thank you for speaking to NDTV. Let me start by asking you, what do you make of the military and the diplomatic offensive that India has launched on Pakistan? A very strong message across the border has been sent.
Yes, thank you, Ankit. I think Operation Sindoor was designed to send a very clear message to Pakistan. Terrorism has consequences.
Yes.
These were precision strikes on the terrorist infrastructure in Pakistan. These were not strikes against the state of Pakistan or against the people of Pakistan. Of course, the kinetic action was preceded by scores of diplomatic actions that India had taken. The most serious among them, of course, was the suspension, the keeping in abeyance of the Indus Waters Treaty, which had survived 3 wars, 1965, 1971, 1999. And the fact that this time Prime Minister Modi felt that Pakistan had crossed a certain threshold and they needed to be taught a very, very strong lesson meant that for the first time ever in history, we suspended the Indus Waters Treaty. Then, of course, the downgrading of the diplomatic strength of the 2 high commissions from 55 to 30, the expulsion of the military component of the high commissions, all those were there. But more importantly, I think India took into confidence our key allies and partners before the strikes, and after the strikes also, we have kept all the important world capitals briefed about what our intent was, what our objective was, what we have achieved, and most importantly, that we do not see this as escalatory in nature.
Yes. Ambassador Swaroop, India has reiterated that it was non-escalatory in nature. That is the intent with which these terror strikes were, India carried out these strikes, military strikes inside Pakistan and in POK. That entire composition of the press briefing, you had the Foreign Secretary brief the press along with 2 officers, women officers. Then the Foreign Secretary also briefing soon after the 22nd terror attack which happened in Pahalgam. The presence of Foreign Secretary is a message going to the world.
Oh, absolutely, that he's a chief diplomatic officer and he's directly, in front of the media explaining the rationale, the objectives of our strike, of the operation. And the fact, as you rightly mentioned, these 2 women officers,
yes,
one from the Army, one from the Air Force, and the symbolism attached to their names. Because, a key component of what the Foreign Secretary said was that the Pahalgam attacks were meant also to spread communal discord in India.
That's right.
And I think the message that we gave, that all of India is united, that we do not look at people of Kashmir with suspicion, that they are also an inalienable part of India, they are as Indian as you and I are. I think that is a very important message that was underscored by the press briefing and by the symbolism around that press briefing.
You have External Affairs Minister, Ankit, just one question. Speak to the France Foreign Minister. You have External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar brief his counterpart also in Germany, also in Japan. So this constant briefing with his counterparts is continuing even as India would be looking at more support from multiple nations. What now in terms of the diplomatic planning?
You see, Pakistan always uses these incidents as a means to internationalize the Kashmir dispute.
Yes.
Whenever this has happened, whether it was post-Uri or post-Pulwama, post-Pathankot, whatever it is, Pakistan always tries to exploit these to promote the narrative that, oh, these are 2 nuclear-armed neighbors who are now at a nuclear flashpoint on Kashmir, and unless you intervene, the whole region will go up in flames. So I think that is the reason why we have been very careful in terms of briefing all the permanent and non-permanent members of the Security Council and all the key allies and partners that we have. And as you have seen, there has been universal support for India in the sense there is no country which now has any tolerance for terrorism.
Absolutely.
Especially if you look at the response of the Gulf states, from Saudi Arabia,
Yes.
from UAE.
From
I
Qatar.
Think, from Qatar. I think it's very, very significant. And then the Security Council, let's not forget, Pakistan is presently a non-permanent member of the Security Council.
Yes.
And look at the statement that the Security Council put out on the 25th of April, that there can be no justification for any kind of terrorism. India deserves to bring the perpetrators of the Pahalgam massacre to justice.
Our colleagues are also joining us. I just have one quick question to you, sir, before, in fact, we bring our colleagues in, because right from the dead of the night, as soon as it happened, my colleague Shiv Arur, who is on the ground in Srinagar, has been reporting. He has now gone to the forward areas where, a lot of, we are seeing the retaliation from Pakistan, which of course is appropriately being handled and responded to by India. Gurpreet also joining us from a, border district. But Mr. Swaroop, before I let you go, sir, my last question to you, are you picking up some signs that, possibly there would be international pressure on Pakistan not to escalate? Because number one, the most important thing is, if Pakistan does take the escalation ladder on the kinetic front, Pakistan then justifies the operation of these terror and the terrorists on its soil, because India has only hit out at terrorists, not on the Pakistani installations.
Absolutely, Ankit. I would say this, India does not want escalation. Pakistan cannot afford escalation. If you look at the Pakistani economy, it's in shambles. It's on life support thanks to an IMF stabilization packet of $7 billion. Their agriculture is in distress right now. And I think even the civil-military relations have crumbled, quite a bit in Pakistan. And that is why, in fact, some people have suggested that General Asim Munir was compelled to launch this kind of an operation just to shore up the sagging popularity of the Pakistan military in Pakistan. My sense is that, these things, Pakistan cannot afford long drawn-out military escalation with India. So to the extent that Pakistan now de-escalates, they are already claiming that, they have downed some planes, etc. Well, let them claim that Pyrrhic victory and let them now de-escalate, because my sense is that neither country wants a full-blown war at this point in time.
Absolutely.
All right, Vikas Swaroop, really appreciate your time here in the NDTV studios. Let's bring in Shiv Arur and Gurpreet, who are joining us from Ground Zero. Shiv Arur, and I can see Ishika also joining us from outside South Block. That's where a series of meetings have been held earlier in the afternoon. Shiv, coming to you, where exactly are you? And, is the shelling continuing along the LOC?
We're here in the Kalgi-Ramgi village of line of control Uri, right outside a house in the middle of this village that has extensively been shelled, as you can see in these pictures. We're the first to actually report from here because it's very difficult to actually get here. It's quite a marooned village. You need to trek for about half an hour to get to this point. But this is a house that I'm standing in front of and reporting that had 35 people inside it, including 14 children, many of them small, who had a miraculous escape because this house actually had the presence of mind and the wherewithal really to build a bunker in their basement. So 35 people actually stuffed themselves into a tiny little bunker after 2 a.m. this morning and therefore were saved. They've all fled from this village. There's hardly anyone left over here. And there are many houses, neighboring houses also that have been similarly damaged. This is in fact, Ankit and Maria, the third village that we are seeing in the Uri sector alone, that has suffered extensive damage of this kind. We're also told that shelling could start again tonight because it continued till about noon today, and that's why there's a huge amount of fear right now, a lot of anger as well, because many of the people who can't leave from this village say, where will we go? Where can we actually go? This particular house had some resources and the 35 people have gotten into 2 tempo travelers and fled towards Baramulla. But the other people in this village, they're just wondering when the next shell lands, what are they going to do? Look at this house. It's completely damaged. Nobody can live in it. It's impossible to get back here. And the family, we're told, doesn't even know what they're going to do, where to pick up the pieces and where to actually begin. So this is what's happening here at the line of control in Uri.
Me, engage you further a little bit because, where you are at this moment, and let me tell our viewers, NDTV is the only channel reporting from the worst hit areas of the Pakistani retaliation as we see. And Shiv, you've covered this. We have seen this many times. While India very specifically goes after terror targets, and if, like in 1971, it was only military targets, Pakistani army does not make those distinction. It is our civilian areas which are facing the brunt with medium and heavy artillery guns from the Pakistani side.
This is, you couldn't think of a more family home than this one, Ankit and Maria. Let me just show you some images that will, prove that. Children's shoes still here on this shoe rack, full of debris, everything smashed. It's a very typically Kashmiri house. Follow me in here, I'll show you something more. Look at this very, very poignant little thing lying on the ground. A little boy's, public school ID card just lying on the floor. Where this child is with his family, they've fled from here, too scared to be here at this time. A very typical Kashmiri sitting room, like a common room for guests. This is what the condition is. Completely smashed. Imagine a house that held 35 people, full of laughter, full of fun, all of them going to school, the parents working, 4 different families living jointly like a joint family. And they've had to flee from here because of what happened. The damage you see in this house happened in a flash. It was a couple of shells that landed on the house. We've been asked not to go upstairs because the entire roof is creaking and therefore it could, completely collapse. But this is what Pakistan has done. What you're saying is absolutely right. India, as part of Operation Sindoor, had targeted terrorists and terrorist infrastructure. Pakistan in return, and this is the 3rd village, let me remind you, that I'm reporting from in just the last couple of hours, where Pakistan has directly targeted civilian settlements and civilian villages. And let me tell you, this can be no mistake because these are sophisticated weapons. Artillery and mortar are sophisticated weapons that can be guided, and they've chosen to hit these villages right here on the line of control.
Shiv, yes, certainly. I mean, civilians being targeted and the manner in which they have been targeted, and Shiv getting us all the details from that, in fact, dilapidated, destroyed home now, a home which had 30 people once upon a time, a happy family, which had little kids roaming around with their school badges being now thrown on the ground. That is what the civilian story is.
And our heart goes out to these people.
Absolutely.
I mean, this is
we
the
do
cost
not know
of
where
the
they
war.
are.
This is the cost of the war that everybody has to pay, and it's Pakistan's treachery once again. I mean, you conduct terror strikes inside our country, kill innocent people, and then, of course, again target civilians when retribution comes Pakistan's way. Maria.
Yes, we have Gurpreet now joining us from Firozpur, one of the border districts in Punjab. Gurpreet, we have seen some mock drills being carried out in all 259 districts. That's what the scale of these mock drills were. What's happening in Firozpur? What are the people saying on ground? Is there a sense of calm, or are there some unease as well?
Well, we have seen Punjab is a border state, and specifically they have this international porous border here in the district of Firozpur, Gurdaspur and Pathankot. What we have seen since the strike had been taken place by the Indian government, we have seen this is on high alert. They have taken a multiple action on the ground. We have seen in district Gurdaspur, they have already shut down the schools for 3 days. Similarly in Pathankot, and we have seen in district Firozpur, they have already shut down a school for 1 day. Multiple mock drills are already underway where we have seen these civil administration officials. They are also guiding the people how they are going to deal with this situation if a war-like situation is going to be come up in the coming days. At the same time, if we can talk about the spirits of these people from Firozpur, they are having high spirit. They say they are with the nation, and they have also appreciated the action which has been taken by the Indian government against terrorists. They say it's the right time to hit them very hard, because we have seen multiple times anti-India activities had been seen from across the border, and this is the time to teach them lesson. But as of now, if we can talk about this district Firozpur, we have seen the multiple precautions have been taken by the civil administration. They are also conducting these mock drills, and what we have learned at about 9 to 9:30 there will be blackout, so that the people should be aware of this process process which they have to follow in the coming day if there is any emergency situation which is going to be arise in this specifically border area. So as of now, if we can talk about the people who are present here, they seems to be very calm. They seems to be with nation. They say this action was the need of the hour, and we appreciated the way the Indian government has already carried out this strike on the hideouts of these terrorists that was required. So we have to wait and watch what will be the next and how the things will be unfolded in the coming days. But as of now, we have seen, we had a word with the SSP Firozpur also. He was saying we have been appealing to people that there is everything is under control, and if there is any emergency, we are ready to combat and grapple with the emergency. Back to studio.
Ishika as well, who is reporting from outside South Block. That's where a series of meetings were held. Remember, Prime Minister Modi briefed President of India, Draupadi Murmu. There was a briefing which was carried out also by, Prime Minister briefed his cabinet colleagues as well. There was a meeting chaired by Home Minister Amit Shah with chief ministers of all border states participating in that. So there is a sense of preparedness as far as India is concerned. What is happening right now in South Block? Ishika will give us the details. Ishika.
Well, Maria, just a while ago, in fact, the UNSC members, Security Council members, permanent and non-permanent members, they were in fact called and they were briefed up, regarding the Operation Sindoor that was conducted by the government, government of India today. And in fact, they briefed the nations as to how that this, the entire retaliation that was done by India was done on credible intel, and how, 26 missile strikes were done by India on 9 terror camps, and also emphasizing this fact that these camps were in fact the hub rather of the terrorist organization, if you talk about Lashkar-e-Taiba or if you talk about Jaish-e-Mohammed, and no civilians in fact were harmed in this entire strike. Now also going on to say to the members here that India is not looking for any escalation. This was rather a retaliation that was done by India because of the zero tolerance, towards terrorism. And we have just seen the statement also that has come from Rajnath Singh, the Defence Minister of India, making it very, very clear that the stand of India is that they have only targeted those who have in fact killed civilians in Kashmir in India. Also, if we talk about the Foreign Minister, S. Jaishankar, he has spoken, to countries like France, Spain, Russia as well, Germany as well, thanked them for the support that they have been giving to India, and also again and again emphasizing that India has a zero tolerance policy towards terrorism. So if you look at it, certainly the nations have been briefed regarding all of, the footages as to how India only, struck on the terrorist
All right,
camp.
Ishika and Gurpreet, thank you so much for joining us. Ambassador Vikas Sarup summing it up quite well here when he says that India doesn't want escalation and Pakistan cannot afford escalation at this point. And joining Ankit and me at this point is Lieutenant General Arun Sahni, former GOC in Indian Army. We also have Major General Jan Cardozo joining us.
Right. Let me very quickly first go across to Lieutenant General Sahani. Sir, I want to, start by asking you, because everybody, the only question that people have in their mind at this moment is what happens from here on? Are we going to see, or are you worried that there could be a next level of escalation? What is that next level of escalation, and how are we prepared for that?
I think if you give me a quick look, firstly, I think the Indian Armed Forces did an absolutely brilliant, managed to get surprise and managed to select and hit targets, which ensures that the escalation doesn't take place, because we haven't hit any military target. We've only targeted terror, but this time the nerve center of the targets of these terrorists, their nerve centers have been sorted out. The most important issue that really comes to light now is that will there be a reaction? Yes, I think for the public, we are already seeing on the social media with the false narrative that they are trying to build up in the psychological domain of having downed certain aircrafts of ours, having carried out certain amount of retaliatory action, which seems to be getting reported from Reuters and from BBC. That's what I saw on the net, which is available to us. So it seems he's trying to sort of cater for his homegrown people, that that we have taken necessary action in retaliation to what the Indian armed forces have done. But I think more importantly, I think in due course, we should be very clear that we would be, the likely threat would remain of standoff weapons as far as they're concerned. They've already upped the ante on the borders. When you look at it today, from small arms, they've gone into artillery fire. So that itself is an escalation, because the ranges that they're connecting, the kind of TNT that they're being able to throw across, and I saw some footage which you showed about the damaged houses of the civilian villages that have happened there. So I think what we could look at, with the kind of support they're getting from Turkey, from China, and with their own capabilities, which are quite limited,
Right.
you would see, I would say, drones, loiter munitions, which might come up in the tactical space, which they would try and hit us. So I think our counter UAV measures and our capacity to cater to ensure that our vulnerabilities and sensitivities are well protected along the border areas within a belt of about 30 to 40 kilometers is carried out. And of course, subsequently, I don't, in my opinion, as I think the former Foreign Secretary is very beautifully summed up, I don't think they have the capacity or the appetite to take a war, but they have to do a face saving. So we might see certain amount of
Absolutely.
reaction to that case.
They need a face-saving exit. Let me very quickly bring in Shiv. He has to, in fact, and it also is getting dark there. The area where he is at this moment is quite active. He has to change locations as well. Shiv, very quickly, because you've been also been reporting on the complexity of this entire operation which India undertook, the kind of weapons which were used, and the way, in fact, we were able to send across a message, especially when we talk about Bahawalpur and Muridke, in Pakistan. At this moment, how are the security forces, our forces, preparing to deal with any eventuality with Pakistan? Also, just tell us a little bit more about the weapons that India used.
Ankit, as far as face saving goes, and I completely agree with our guest that, Pakistan needs to be seen to, at least for its domestic audience, having done something as far as India is concerned. It has no appetite for war. The country is flat broke, but it obviously still has money for firing mortars like this one. This is the remnants of an actual Pakistani mortar that I'm holding in my hand here at the Kalgi-Ramgi village that has smashed into this house and torn a huge hole, right into this house. Just look at the thickness of this wall, Ankit, and I will answer your question about the weapons. These are, twin-layered, bouldered wall has been smashed open, and the people inside are gone from here. Complete decimation of this particular house by a Pakistani mortar. And I just want to say that this was in response to India targeting terror sites in Pakistan. Pakistan has responded by firing these at civilian villages like this one. The Indian Army, the Indian Air Force used sophisticated weapons for the first time in anger, including the Scalp cruise missiles, the Hammer advanced standoff precision-guided bombs, as well as some loitering munitions. Like we've been reporting, and we were the first to put this out earlier today, you and me, Ankit, was that this was a tri-service operation. Now, as it gets dark over here at the line of control in Uri, one of the most active zones in the line of control that has seen extensive damage to civilian homes and villages. The villagers here are all living in fear. They believe that shelling will start as soon as the sun has set. It's going to be a hot night tonight. Pakistan, which has escalated on the line of control, which is, just a few kilometers behind me, are likely to do something else tonight. So India's guard is fully up. We've already seen the damage along the line of control in different areas, from Kupwara to here in the Uri sector, but especially in Rajouri, Poonch, where there have been several casualties. So we will continue to report that from these front lines.
We are hoping that
Shiv, stay safe.
Exactly, that the
Stay
villagers
safe.
there and Shiv, all of you stay safe. It's going to be a difficult night. on the LOC, and we are hoping that no further damage, in fact, is done to the civilians and our armed forces.
We also have Major General Jan Cardozo joining us. Major General, really appreciate your patience here. This is for the first time that India has put out footage of the visual evidence of how it has struck, the reason and the significance of each and every target, the 9 targets which have been chosen by India. When we look at that video evidence, it is critical because, post Uri and post Pulwama, that video evidence was not there, and that had led the world, and also domestic, questions arise whether it was carried out at all.
Yes, so what do you want me to say, man? What's the question?
Yes, so the significance of the video evidence, sir.
The issue is this. Whereas India had targeted terrorist locations, Pakistan has got no terrorist locations to attack. And therefore, it is attacking innocent villages, which is sad and sorry. But the question is this. Is there going to be any escalation? Because the Pakistani civilian officers have said that we would not like to escalate this any further. So as far as that is concerned, India should now consider their offer to not escalate. So whether we escalate or don't escalate is an issue, because we have to understand that war is not something which is good for either India or Pakistan. 28 civilians were killed at Pahalgam. We have taken reprisals. We have done what has to be done, what had to be done, and Pakistan has got the message. The message is, what Pakistan starts, India will finish. And that message has gone home. Now the question is, do we want to take this further? As far as escalation on the war front is concerned, I think we need to have a second thought about this. But as far as the other issues are concerned, that is the Indus Water Treaty, the line of control, etc., we should keep on carrying on with what we have said and not step back in those areas.
All right, we have Vikas Sarup also here in the studio, continues to be with us. Vikas Sarup, India doesn't want escalation. Pakistan cannot afford escalation. You have perhaps given us a headline of sorts. But going ahead, in the next 24 to 48 hours, what should India be prepared for?
I think India has to be prepared for every and any eventuality. And I think the fact that we are having these civil defense drills across 244 districts of India means that we are ramping up our preparedness. We are ready for any eventuality. The Indian armed forces are ready to give a befitting response to any Pakistan misadventure. So I think Pakistan better beware. If they go on the escalation ladder, then India will also be forced to go on that same ladder. I think neither country would want that. My sense is the civilian leadership in Pakistan definitely would not want it. Can the army even afford this? My sense is it will not, because even in Balakot, if you remember, they were forced to return our downed pilot eventually because they wanted to de-escalate at that point in time. So I hope saner voices, saner heads will prevail in Pakistan, and they will treat this as a closed chapter, and both countries can go on with the normal business.
Absolutely, because make no mistake about one thing, ladies and gentlemen.
The cost of war.
The cost of war.
Exactly.
And India we have done what needed to be done at that point of time. There had to be a retribution. There had to be some cost that has to be extracted from Pakistan, a message being sent. But now the ball is in Pakistan's court. How they want to play on from here, it all depends on the Pakistani army and the civilian establishment. Not only they will again expose themselves as backing the terrorists who have been targeted by the Indian precision strike, they would also will have to pay a very heavy price if the escalation on the kinetic ladder goes up from here. We'll take a very quick break, ladies and gentlemen. Our discussions will continue. This is the big story that we have been tracking. India's precision strike in Pakistan, Operation Sindoor. A message has been sent.
Terror training camps and logistical networks inside Pakistan and in POK have been destroyed by India in the Operation Sindoor, which was carried out. Sindoor, the significance of that word cannot be missed. It stands for vermilion, something that is associated with, closely identified with Indian culture and Indian brides. Remember, what happened and what played out on 22nd was also young brides separated from their spouses, young mothers separated from their husbands, and then children witnessing their fathers being killed point blank by terrorists. In fact, soon after the military strikes by India, we have been speaking to the families of victims. What does it mean for them? Let's listen in, because the significance of the day and the symbolism of Operation Sindoor cannot be missed.
मेरे हस्बैंड ने ही वॉज इन द डिफेंस फोर्सेज एंड व्हेन ही हैड जॉइन्ड द डिफेंस फोर्सेज वो यही चाहता था दैट ही वांटेड टू प्रोटेक्ट द पीस इन दिस कंट्री. ही वांटेड टू मेक श्योर दैट इनोसेंट लाइव्स आर नॉट गॉन इन दिस कंट्री. ही वांटेड टू मेक श्योर दैट देयर इज नो हेट्रेड एंड टेरर इन दिस कंट्री, एंड दिस ऑपरेशन signifies his spirit that there will terrorism, hatred will not be tolerated by the Indian government. ये नाम बहुत सही है क्योंकि इस इंसिडेंट की वजह से बहुत औरतों ने, बहुत बहनों ने, बहुत माँओं ने अपनी जान खोई है, अपना एक हिस्सा खो दिया है.
हम सब इस पल की प्रतीक्षा कर रहे थे और जो भी सरकार ने निर्णय लिया है वो योग्य लिया है, और हमारी बस यही इच्छा है कि अभी जो भी ये संगठन है या ये जो ग्रुप्स है जो आतंकवादी हमले कर रहे हैं, इनको पूरी तरीके से निकाल के मतलब ढूंढ के मार देना चाहिए और ख़त्म कर देना चाहिए.
उसे बहुत थैंक यू कहती हूँ कि उन्होंने मेरे पति की मौत का बदला लिया है. मैं बहुत छोटी हूँ, उन्हें कुछ भी कहने या नहीं कहने वाली, लेकिन हाँ, जिस तरीके से हमारे पूरे परिवार को उन पे विश्वास था, उन्होंने उसी तरीके से जवाब देके हमारे विश्वास को कायम रखा है. एंड आई एम रियली थैंकफुल.
हमें ऑपरेशन सिंदूर के बारे में न्यूज़ चैनल से मतलब हमारे परिवार वालों के कॉल आए हमें, और तब पता चला कि भारत ने जो पहलगाम में हमला हुआ था उसके ऊपर आज उन्होंने रिएक्शन मतलब उनको उत्तर दिया है इसके बदले में एयर स्ट्राइक करके. पहले तो मिशन का नाम सुन के हम लोगों को बहुत मतलब मैं तो बहुत रो रही थी सुन के.
थैंक्सफुल देना चाहता हूँ उसको, ये जो पाकिस्तान ये आपका टेररिस्ट ये अड्डा को मुँह तोड़ ये जवाब दिया है, काफ़ी डैमेज किया है. और अभी इंडियन ये फौजी वालों से भी मैं दरख्वास्त करूँगा सतर्क है, क्योंकि पाकिस्तान वालों के भरोसा नहीं है कब वो फिर ये अंदर से फिर कब ये हमें नुकसान पहुंचाने के लिए उन लोग जो स्टेप लेंगे, तो सतर्क रहने के लिए उन लोग को भी मैं दरख्वास्त करूँगा. मोदी जी अभी ये जो स्टेप लिया है हमारे ये फौजी लोगों को ये मुँह तोड़ जितना भी आतंकवादी है उनको मुँह तोड़ जवाब देने के लिए जो स्टेप लिया मोदी को मैं थैंक्सफुल देना चाहता हूँ.
From women leading the briefing when it happened at 11 a.m. earlier today, it was the anti-terror operation Sindoor, which stands for that honoring of women, those women who were widowed after terrorists killed their men in Pahalgam on 22nd. That is what this entire operation stands for. And Ankit, we have
Lieutenant General Arun Sahani, but very quickly before, like you were speaking about the women, the terrorists backed by Pakistan chose Indian women whose husbands were isolated and killed in front of them to send across a message. Remember those words that terrorists use, go tell Modi that we have done this. And today the country saw two women delivering the message back to Pakistan. If you could do this, our armed forces have the strength, the resolve and the capacity to give you and your terror infrastructure a deadly blow. Lieutenant General Arun Sahani, if I may bring you in, sir, at this moment, it is going to be a difficult night, isn't it, sir? Yes. Because the expectation already is that at least for their domestic audience, Pakistan would want to show something that they have retaliated against India. Also, do you feel that this, after hitting Muridke, Bahawalpur, this is deterrence enough? We have done something which we have not done since 1971.
I think, I think what you talked about deterrence, I think that's the most important thing. The first point is that the both from the political leadership and from the citizens of this country, this preparedness to take the last bullet, that is, in case there is a war, they are willing to stand by the country, face these hardships that would naturally flow, both in the economic and in their normal daily lives, was the first step of deterrence to show that India will go the whole hog in case you continue with this kind of an activity. So I think the first step of deterrence has been set by the fact that we have targeted the nerve centers of these terrorists. The country has shown a resolve that we will be ready to face the hardships. We would be willing to go to war, even if it is detrimental for the country and for the people. We'll have more casualties. But henceforth, I'm sorry, we are not going to accept any such nonsense from you. But how do you now maintain this deterrence? And that's where the challenge will remain with India. Hereafter, my feeling is that these one-off attacks does create and give the necessary messaging for continued signaling. Every time there is a terrorist attack in India, we have to be prepared to actually take, literally, as they say, blood for blood. If they fire on us, kill a terrorist attack which is traced back to Pakistan, which actually doesn't require too much of a ingenuity to really work out, then I think there needs to be a reciprocal punishment. So the sustained pressure and action by India in the tactical operational plane, while you're doing the other two actions on the economic front of taking them to FATF, looking at the World Bank to sort of reassess its support which it is providing on the financial side to them, the Indus Water Treaty, getting our dams as of now dredged, ensuring that the canals are done, the standing and the projects which have been held in abeyance thanks to Pakistan's, false propaganda and claims in the World Bank. I think we now need to ensure that all happens now. So I think this continued pressure will ensure there is deterrence, keep the kinetic options open to hit at a suitable target every time there is some such action done by them, and that would actually enhance your deterrence. And I think this whole operation is the first stage of proving that there is deterrence, and India is willing to take the last step if it is required.
All right, Lieutenant General Arun Sani, really appreciate your time. As tension continues to simmer along the line of control, the message certainly is what will be the long-term impact of Operation Sindoor? Will it be actually a deterrent, or will it spark future confrontation between the two nations? A quick break, and then we get you details of all the mock drills which has been carried out across 259 districts in India.